Okay, 7th grade, so today we're looking at page 58 in the packet. We are skipping ahead a little bit, but that's alright. It just fits better with where we are at. So I hope everybody's doing okay. As always, if you need anything, I'm available during office hours. You can contact me outside of office hours. I might just not respond immediately. So today we're going to be looking at Greek and Latin word parts. Most of you have probably heard of Greek and Latin word parts before. There's two different parts of a word, which is the roots and then the affixes. There's two different kinds of affixes, but we'll get into that. But these different word parts help us to better understand the meanings of words. So we talked about context clues already. These are almost similar to context clues in that they help us to understand what the meaning of the word is without actually just looking up the word. So, where Greek and Latin word parts come from is that many words in the English language come from Greek and Latin. And so we take certain parts of those Greek and Latin words and put them into our words, and those certain things have meaning that are universal to all words. So it says, specifically we'll start with roots. So there's roots and then affixes. The first one we're talking about is a root. A root is a word part that contains the core meaning of the word. In the word science, for example, the root sci means knowledge. So you see the SCI means knowledge. Well, we know science has a lot to do with knowledge of how the world works and things like that, and lots of things having to do with medicine and everything. So knowledge about those specific things. So then they give you a chart with some other roots. So what a root is it gives you the main meaning of the word. So it's not just adding on to the definition, which is more what the affix does. The root gives you the main purpose for the word. So one of the roots that they give you is belly. These might not be pronounced correctly, but they're just roots, so that's okay. Tract would mean to draw or pull. So if you think like the word tractor, you're pulling something with a tractor, for example. Protractor has to do with drawing things and like math and doing lines and angles and all that kind of stuff. This one's hard to say, but hydr right here, HYDR means water. So if you think like hydrate, things like that, if you think about which hydrate means to like have enough water, that sort of thing. So if you think dehydrate, that D is going to be the affixes that we're going to talk about, and the prefixes in that case, and also suffixes. So the other words they have are flect or flex, which is bend. Psi, we already talked about, means knowledge. And then form means shape or form. So if you look at, those are roots. So again, that's the main meaning of the word. In a root, I should add, a root doesn't have to come specifically at the beginning or the end of the word. It can even come in the middle of the word. So it can come anywhere in the word. It doesn't have to be at the beginning or the end. So an affix is the second type of word part, and there's two different types of affixes. This is added to the root. So the first type of affix is a prefix, which comes before the root. If you think of the word preview, when do the previews come on in a movie? Before the movie, right? So pre comes at the beginning of the word or before the root. A suffix comes after the root. So these just add a little bit of extra meaning to that root. So the first one that they give us is D. So kind of like what I was talking, D or dis, which is kind of like what I was talking about with hydrate. So we know hydrate means to have enough water, to get enough water, that type of thing, to give water to. Okay? Well, if you say dehydrate, then you're taking the water away because it's doing the opposite. So if you own something, that means it's yours. You take ownership of it. If you disown something, that means you say that's not mine. I don't want it. Whatever. It means doing the opposite. So we have the next prefix is re, which means again or anew. So if you renew a movie, you're getting it, or renew like your Netflix subscription, that means you're getting it again the next month. Con is the next prefix, which means with. Now there's also the suffixes, which again, the suffixes are what comes at the end of the word. So one of them would be OUS or IOUS, which means characterized by. Ent means inclined to. Able or able means capable of or tending. So compatible would mean that they're capable of going together. Stuff like that. So these, again, suffixes go at the end of the word. Prefixes go at the beginning of a word. And they are added to roots, which have the main meaning of the word. So the prefixes and suffixes basically just add on to that root word and add on to the definition that is given to us by the root word. So now we're going to take a look at the bottom of page 58. We're going to do this together, and then you guys will do 59 on your own for homework, I guess you would say. So it says, read the passage, circle the roots in the underlined words on a separate sheet of paper, write the meanings of the word parts, and define the word. I'm just going to do it at the bottom here, but you guys can do it on a separate sheet of paper. That is totally fine. So first we'll go through and circle the roots in the underlined words. Again, the roots are the words up here. And I believe all of the roots that we see down in this area are roots that are given to us in this chart. So that should be super helpful. So it says, a root's meaning will sometimes not fit well with the definition of the word. You'll need to make an inference or educate a guess to see the connection between the root and the meaning. So not always is it an exact definition. Like a tractor, so tract means to draw or pull. A tractor is not the action of drawing or pulling, right? It's a device that pulls something else. So it's not, the definition of tractor is not to pull. It's a device that pulls something, right? Like science. The definition of science is not knowledge, but it's knowledge about something else, right? So it says, my dog Sam, we'll read through it first and then we'll go through and circle the other things here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight them just because it's a little bit easier for me to do that. But it says, my dog Sam has a belligerent personality. The moment he becomes conscious of a cat, he gives chase. No matter what I do to distract him, nothing works. The problem is intractable. One day, Sam approached a stray cat, which raised its spiky fur, bared its teeth, and took off after him. Sam returned later, dehydrated, hot, and humble. But did Sam reform his behavior? No. My dog is just too inflexible to change his habits. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and highlight those different roots within those words. And again, all of the roots will be found in that chart above. So the first word we have is belligerent. Well, if we look up here, we see that belli, and we see it right down here as well. So you can circle it, highlight it, whatever works best for you. The moment he becomes conscious, okay? Conscious. Well, okay, even this one tripped me up a little bit, actually. So in the word conscience, if we look up, again, a root is not necessarily at the beginning or the end, but we see the SCI, which means knowledge, and we see it here as well. No matter what I do to distract him, nothing works. Distract, let's go up here. We see that tract in that word. I think we can jump to the next one. Intractable, we see that tract word again, so we can just go ahead and highlight that. We already know, we just did it on the last one. We see dehydrated. Well, we use that one in an example. So we see the HYDR means water. We see that right here. This one should be pretty easy because I used it as an example. But did Sam reform his behavior? Look up here. Form, right? Form. No, my dog is just too inflexible to change his habits. We see flex right here. So now what we're going to do, it says to do it on a separate sheet of paper. We can do it on a separate sheet or at the bottom, whatever really works best for you. What we're starting with is the word belligerent. And what we need to do is write the meanings of the word parts and define the word. So I'm just going to go ahead and write the meanings of the words just because, for sake of space. But we will go through the meanings of each word part together, and if you want to write them down to help you, that is totally okay with me. So, if we look at the word belligerent, we know that that root word is B-E-L-L-I. So that means war, okay? The other parts we see are re, which is right here, and ent, okay? So inclined to, again, or anew. Well, I think maybe because we have the R-E and then the E-N-T that we're going more with the E-N-T here because we don't see the R-E on its own. It kind of blends in to the E-N-T. So inclined to. So inclined to war. Well, is that the exact definition according to our hint? Does that have to be the exact definition of the word belligerent? Inclined to war. No. But if he has a belligerent personality and he's chasing cats and all these kind of things, what does that mean? So belligerent could mean that he's inclined to maybe, we could go with the inclined to fight maybe, or inclined to chase, something like that. He's inclined to be a little bit more aggressive than normal, or a little bit more out there than normal. So the moment that he becomes conscious, so conscious, we have that psi, which means knowledge, and then we have con, which means with, and we also have OUS, which means characterized by. Well, I think most of us know what conscious means. It means that we are now aware of something, right, that is around us. The exact definition of conscious would be something like being aware of your surroundings, per se. So he becomes aware of the fact that a cat's around him. So he has knowledge of the fact that he is with or around something, right? So that's kind of how we get to that. So we have conscious, I need to spell it right, which means we're aware of the surroundings. The next word is distract. Okay, so we have our root word, which is tract. Let's look at that first. Draw or pull. And dis means opposite. So if we're drawing or pulling something, we need to think about what the opposite of that would be. So if we're drawing towards something, maybe, which draw doesn't necessarily mean writing with a piece of paper, right? So if you say, that drew my attention, that means that it caught your attention, right? So maybe we could say, since it's doing the opposite, taking attention away from. That's all we have to say, because we don't know exactly what they're taking attention away from, but that they are taking attention away from something. Okay, number 4, we have intractable. We know, again, tract still means draw or pull, just like the last one. Now, able means capable of or tending to. So, we have draw or pull, and then capable. So we know it has something to do with capable of being drawn. Oftentimes, I don't think it is up here, but in actually means, in is not one of our prefixes or suffixes here, but in is actually similar to d or dis, so it means do the opposite of. So capable of or tending to drawing or pulling. So it means the opposite again. So think about if it said distractible. It would mean the same thing. So it's not easily drawn or pulled, right? So we could say it's maybe stubborn or not easily handled. So just because it's not up on this chart doesn't mean it's not a prefix or a suffix. In often means the opposite, just the same way that de or dis does. So now we have dehydrated. Well, we talked about this one in the introduction. We know that the HYDR has to do with water. D means opposite. So if you hydrate someone, you are giving them water. If you're dehydrated, you are without water. That one was pretty simple because we kind of already talked about it. So now we have reform. We know means to do it again, and form means to shape or form. So if he's reforming his behavior, he is changing, right? Because you're doing it again. Anew would mean you're changing it, making something new, right? So changing, and then form means to shape or form. So you're just changing whatever, changing something. We don't have to be specific. Last one we have is inflexible. A lot of us probably know what this means. Again, in is that prefix that's not on here, but it means super similar to de or dis, which means to do the opposite. So flex is bend, and then able means capable of. So they're not capable of bending. Well, specifically, we're not talking about bending like bending your arm or your leg, right? So we would say not capable of, and then what? Not capable of. So we're not talking about him actually bending here, right? We're talking about him changing, like we said in reform. We're talking about him changing his behavior. So he's not capable of change, right? It doesn't actually have to do with being bent. It has to do with being able to change his behavior. So now you guys are going to look at 59 on your own. And this one you guys will just do for homework, basically. And then we will move on to page 60 tomorrow. I will be uploading another free read this week. So hopefully you guys will listen to that if you want to. But again, if you need me, I'll be available during office hours and outside of office hours, just not through immediate contact. So just let me know if you guys need anything.